17 years pass, and the seeds of power and conquest begin to emerge from the depths of the earth, and stemming from its stalk, war. Enoch, chapter 1. It sat high among the rest, overlooking the world, while still very much a part of it. A land vast and beautiful like fields of flowers on the plains, or rivers gliding down the stream. Pure and without sin is what foreigners call the land, but no nation is without covetousness. The mountain range bordered the entirety of the western coast. Its peaks seemed to scrape the stars, as if reaching towards the face of God. The entire continent received all its water from the expanse of the range. Rivers ran like veins across the land, stepping into lakes as clear as crystal, and powering the country to prosperity, before moving onwards until the water reached the eastern coast, where it descended down to the earth. A man walks alone, and the wind whispers quietly in his ear, as the falls of water roar to be heard. His face is pale and sharp, with eyes a calming blue. His ears are pointed and arched, and his hair grey and ruffled. His feet fall silent as they hit the ground, his movement like silk, soft and full of grace. The man's heart is heavy, and his mind astir. The mountains and cliffs hang high above him, as the water moves around him, and he falls to his knees. The man's eyes close and look towards the sky, as he whispers to the wind.
We are a broken people. Much like the world, we are lost and cannot find our way. If there be any hope, lead me to it. For what is life without it? We see old patterns of the past, though the characters are new. Help us unveil the fog upon our eyes and lead us to the truth. My people no longer believe in your divinity, nor your grace. Please shine the light within their hearts, or let me be the instrument who does, for the world is nearly cast in shadow, and will soon be consumed by darkness. Hear my prayer. Tak.
The wind quickened its pace, as if to carry his message to a greater power, though very few still believed in such superstitions. He opened his eyes, and before him were waterfalls that seemed to fall for miles, with glistened crags and reflections of light streaking across the sky in what seemed to be the works of a master painter. The pointed-eared man cupped his hands into the pool of water that sat motionless in front of him, and washed his face from the sweat of his walk. Down the expanse he went until he reached his city, which seemed to be hidden from the world, as it masked itself with the towering acclivity of stone and earth and water. The buildings and homes were made only from stone and glass, and the glass had no glare in the light. Some were covered with moss from the dampness of the temperate air, others mirrored nature's structure, while a few were bold and prominent like the ministry's building, which was moulded into the shape of an octagon, and rose 1,000 feet into the air, though it still looked small next to the mountain range in which it was very much a part. The peculiar-eared man arrived home. It smelled of lavender within the quietness of the abode. He did not mind the silence, though he wished for some life of the voices he loved to reverberate within his punctorate. I hope Uriel is doing all right. How long since I last saw his face? A year? Almost 2. He answered his own question. He missed Uriel deeply, but grinned when he thought of his son's successes and how he would be home in a few short weeks. His wife was out teaching Ungingels how to capture light, and once captured how to bend the light into a physical form using an orb, and the Britwheeler law. In his silence, the grey-haired man thought he could hear murmuring in the next room over. "Hello," he said. But there was no answer. The man walked into the room where the voice had come from and saw no one, nor anything that may have caused a noise. Strange. Must be that time is catching up with me, he thought. The blue-eyed Engelelf noticed the hour, and dressed in his ministerial robe, and put upon his head a woven band made of silver. He stepped out into his entryway, and with an expression of concern looked about himself and shrugged. The man started walking, and then, like fire to water, evaporated out of existence. Not but a second had passed, and he was within the ministry's building.
"Good afternoon, Enoch," a fellow minister said while walking by. "Hello, Olaf. Ready for today?" he asked.
"Eh?" Olaf uttered. Enoch gave a grin as his thoughts were the same. Not a single percussive sound was made as hundreds of Engelelf walked the soft, grey, solid stone floors in the halls of the open, arid building. Lining the crafted stone halls were vines of elegance, with an array of patterns depending on where in the ministry building a person travelled. During different seasons the vines produced flowers, giving off pleasant aromas. Enoch took a deep breath and inhaled the pleasant smell of the vastly coloured orchids, and continued to walk the halls until he reached his office. His desk was made of pure wood, and assembled from an old pine tree, which still seemed to produce its distinguishable scent. His chair was made of the same tree, and lined with the vines that outlined the building, with a cushion pulled from the cotton fields of Eantheitha. He sat down and saw words written in light, coloured in soft pink, spinning in circles within a tiny orb. He tapped the orb and said, "Uppen," and the message revealed itself. The messages were notes taken by his assistant for the day's meeting of the ministers. He took the pen resting on his desk and wrote the words, "Thank you," in the air with light produced from the pen. Enoch gave a small blow to the message, and the lighted words flickered off to his assistant, eventually finding their way to the orb sitting on her desk. Enoch examined her notes and compared them with his. He noted small discrepancies and bolded consistencies, and when he had finished, it was nearly time for him to attend his meeting. As he arrived in the centre of the great octangular building, he quickly noticed there were already some heated discussions taking place amongst his colleagues. He knew the night was going to be long, tiring, full of passion, truths and untruths, and he took his seat as head of the ministers. He took his stone gavel and slammed hard upon its base. The room came to a murmur, and finally hushed shortly after. Enoch spoke.
"Good evening, ministers. We are here today as we have noted a series of events within Holla, which have given some of us concern. Today we will discuss these concerns. We will listen to our fellow ministers' counter-arguments, and legislation will be written if indeed we decide to act on these allegations. Sir Olaf, the floor is yours."
Hours passed as deliberations moved back and forth. There were strong moments of frustration, periods of applause, scenes of unity, and at times severe division. Awakened eyes at the beginning of the meeting were beginning to squint as the power of sleep tried to grip them. To stay awake, the ministers drank tea and coffee. Catered meals were brought in to sustain them. The night had passed, and the morning light began to rise. The room was silent, but Enoch thought he could hear someone speaking. He glanced around the great hall, but saw no lips moving. "Must be the lack of sleep," he thought to himself. And then someone finally did speak up, to break the silence that surrounded them.
"What do you have to say about this, Enoch? You haven't said a word all night. Why do you hold your tongue?"
the minister asked. Enoch was silent for a bit, took a sip of tea that sat to his right, and then gave his answer.
"I'm silent because to form a complete and whole conclusion, one must gather all the information about an issue, both its negatives and positives, its origins and the narrative created by those origins, to find the truth buried in the web of data about which you have all spoken for the past 14 hours. And with all the words you have spoken, combined with the notes I have gathered on this issue, this is what I have concluded thus far. There is a nation which was ravaged by a war which they created, and as a result, their economy has suffered greatly. There were elections 15 years ago, and a new political party was formed by the son of Valois. It was an election he had lost. There was an election just last year in which he had lost again. However, he was appointed Grand Chancellor by the country's current president. During that year of his running, there was a coalition formed of those who call themselves brown-hemmed. It is my understanding that they have terrorized its citizens, if they did not think a certain way, or if they happened to be anything but hemithioi or semidiusai. These soldiers, if you want to call them that, bear the mark that Alamgir wears upon his sleeve, though he himself has not said anything negative about the Brownhem's coalition. At this time, I believe as a people, he poses a significant risk. And I feel, effective immediately, we should cease trading with Holla, even though this would be a direct violation of the Hitler-Nemtsov agreement.
There was no applause or sounds of discontent as he finished giving voice on the matter. Enoch then called for a vote to take place, needing 3/4 of the ministers to pass legislation to halt trading with Holla.
You have 12 hours to mull over the debates we have had throughout this meeting. When we return after this recess, you will have 30 minutes to place your vote. Go home, get some rest, say hello to your families, and I will see you soon.
Enoch told the ministers and then left the ministers' great hall, in silence, alone.